Hello, children. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. You might have called first. But no matter. You're here, and I'm delighted to see you. It's been a very stressful day for me today. I had to take Roscoe to the vet, and because of COVID, they have some precautionary measures in place, and so one remains in the car with one's pet. And they come outside and get the pet and take it inside. Then a lovely little lady calls you on your cell and gets your credit card number. It occurs to me that I have no idea what, if anything, is being done with the dog. For all I know, they're in there enjoying a game of fetch. But I give my credit card and it's charged $265. It feels more like drive-through extortion. But anyway, the other thing that's happened, oh my goodness, I must move in a little closer because I don't want to risk being overheard. But I'm not sure if I told you, but about a month ago, I got a new neighbor, Meemaw from Florida. No, that's not her name, any more than this is my natural speaking voice. She moved in, and it took about a week. I don't know what it is about old people and china cabinets. And it was very, very disruptive to my routine. Now, just in case you think that Raby doth protest too much, let me clarify for you. The entrance to our units, our doors, face each other, and they're only about 12, 14 feet apart. That has to violate some sort of feng shui law. I mean, I think about the bad juju that could be coming from her apartment and going straight into mine, and it's a bit unnerving. In any case, we also share a common sidewalk and steps. So here I am trying to get an 85-pound dog out, and they're moving in constantly, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, in any case, finally, she is moved in and settled in. Now, there's always a good sign that someone is settled in, and that's the day that they put out their doormat. You know that they have officially nested and are ready to receive visitors. So I was pleased to note that this was a very respectable doormat. It had very little in the way of adornment. It was just clean and simple. Check. Then, I had no sooner posted my video about pumpkin spice when I detected, I was coming home from work, it had been a very stressful day. There, to my abject horror, was a seasonal doormat. I don't know what she had done with the respectable doormat that she had, but this one was a fall or autumnal doormat. Well, that's bad enough. It's just too precious for me. But this particular doormat features Mickey Mouse. That wouldn't be so bad, except that the way that Mickey is drawn, it would appear that the perspective, so let's assume that you have a camera and it's pointed down. Mickey is looking up at you. So if you stand on the doormat, in essence, Mickey is looking up your skirts. This I found to be quite unsettling. So I had to compose a sternly worded letter, because, I mean, you know, granted, she's new, so she can't know of all the ways that I would prefer things be done around the apartment complex. But this, I just had to nip this in the bud. I mean, if we have a perverted Mickey for fall, just imagine what Christmas would be. Can you see it now? I mean, the Virgin Mary and the Christ child over in the background, and there's Joseph looking up your skirts, because obviously he's not getting any. Well, we just can't have that. So I went to her apartment door and handed her the reprimand, if you will. I haven't heard from her, so I'm not quite sure how she's taken this news, but as I said, something had to be done. Well, in any case, um, it was that last week or the week before, I did post a picture of some cookies I made, and I'm wondering if you'd like to join me in the kitchen, and I'll show you how to make those delicious carrot cake cookies. All right, so now hopefully you can see everything clearly. Let's talk about some of the things that you need and some of the things you don't need. So when I said we were going to bake cookies, I bet some of you got excited because you have a KitchenAid stand mixer. Eh, hold on, Genghis Khan. You don't need that. You don't even need a handheld mixer for this particular recipe. But what you will need are some spoons for mixing. When you're making cookies, you can also use your hands. Now, I'm not going to be using my hands with this particular recipe, but I do have a chocolate chip cookie recipe that I do use my hands to mix the ingredients. Now, one of the things that I think you need in a stocked kitchen is a grater. A box grater. It's got all kinds of little things, but this is how I grated the carrots that we'll be using. And yes, you could, in fact, go to the store and get some grated carrots if you, were so inclined. But why do that? It didn't take anything at all. So this will, should alleviate any kind of apprehension you might have in terms of what you need to actually make these things. Now, I don't want to see you using this. And you know who you are. This is a masher. It has no place in baking. No place. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure it really has a place in your kitchen. You know, I've had this thing for almost 10 years, and I've used it maybe 3 times. I mean, how often do I make garlic mashed potatoes? In any case, let's say, the other thing that I want to point out, when you're baking, you will have dry ingredients and you will have wet ingredients. And almost all recipes for baking involve 2 bowls, right? One large for the dry ingredients and then a medium-sized bowl for all of the wet ingredients. And this I want you to think of as sort of a courtship, right? You don't want to get into bed together too soon. It's more of a courtship because what will happen is as soon as the wet hits the dry, there's chemical things that occur. And that's when they make sweet, sweet cookie dough, right? Oh, speaking of which, I almost forgot to tell you. I'm so pleased to be able to share with you this bit of news, but I am officially off the market. I'm still single. I've just given up. Anyway, let's get back to the recipe, shall we? All right. All right. So, what we have done is we have preheated the oven to 375, and we've got a cookie sheet ready to go, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But here we're going to start with the dry ingredients, all right? And here we have a cup and a half of white flour. Now, you can use whole wheat should you choose to. I do use some whole wheat pastry flour for my chocolate chip cookies, but for this particular recipe, I prefer the white flour. It's just a preference of mine. And then we have here a half a cup of light brown sugar. It's so pretty. And we just plop that in. Just plop that in. All right? And then to that, then we're going to add some baking powder. Now this is 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So for you Cro-Magnums out there, it's not baking soda, it's baking powder, right? And that's a teaspoon of that. We are going to then add to that a half a teaspoon of salt. Now I use kosher salt. That's my preference. So we added salt. Now I've got some cinnamon, which is a half a teaspoon of the cinnamon. And then we have half a teaspoon of ground ginger, right? Now all of this is readily available in any grocery store, including your local Bilo. And so that's that. I mean, there's nothing there that should cause you any kind of consternation, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to mix this up really, really well. Now, you would not be able to mix this up as well. Let me just slosh it all over the place. If you had wet ingredients in here, it would really be difficult to mix well. And all you really are trying to do is to make sure that you don't have large chunks of the brown sugar. You just want to make sure that that's all mixed really well. That's pretty simple, right? All right. Now, if you're smoking... So now, with the wet ingredients, this is all pretty simple as well. Here we have a cup of shredded carrot. Isn't that pretty? And so that's really about 2 carrots, really. Let's see, this is such a lovely little thing. The box grater sits right on top of here, and it's got a measure on it. So that's a cup of shredded carrots. Now we're going to add some milk. Now, this is non-dairy milk, and this is, again, I think I know how to say it. Califia, I think. But anyway, this is the oat milk. I like oat milk. You can use almond milk as well. But anyway, we're going to pour that right into the carrots there. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to add to that some oil. Now, this is olive oil, and it's about 1/4 of a cup. And that's going to go right in there with the shredded carrot and the non-dairy milk. And this is going to be quite tasty. All right, and that's really all there is. So we're going to mix that up really well. And that mixes nice and easily, because very, very wet, actually. Okay. Are you with me so far? Okay. Now, one of the things that I always remember when I'm cooking is that what Julia Child said, you really have to have a what the hell kind of attitude. Because, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't turn out right. Well, then you can ask yourself, well, why didn't it? And you can try again and see if you can't correct the issue. But if you've got a recipe to follow, for goodness sakes, you can almost never go wrong. The other thing that's interesting about cooking is that, initially I couldn't tell you if something sounded good, but only after a short time of cooking, I began to be able to read a recipe and know whether I thought it was going to be good. And then, with experience, in no time, you start to develop a critical palate, and you think, okay, well, this needs more of this and less of that. All right, so now I have added the wet ingredients to the dry, and I'm going to do my best to mix this up. This is what I meant when I said you've got to commit to it at this point, because as wet as those wet ingredients are, you can see it gets very dry very quickly. And so you want to mix this up as best you can. All right. Now, Roscoe has a few words to say. Neighbors must be coming or going. He always announces, so thoughtful of him. Now, the last thing to add in is to add in some crushed walnuts. And this is 1/2 cup of those. And then we're going to add in 1/2 cup of raisins. So we'll just put those in there and just kind of fold those in as best we can. And it's getting very, very thick, very difficult. Now, see, you really could, with clean hands, of course, you could really use your hands to mix this up well. I didn't know how that would look on the video, though, so I decided not to. Now, this particular recipe is supposed to yield 20 cookies. Now, I have made this thing about 5 or 6 times over the last couple of months because I just love it. I have never gotten 20 cookies out of this thing. That's only because I kind of like cookies to be a little bit larger. And so anyway, I'm just that way. Now, here we have our baking sheet, also sometimes referred to as a jelly roll pan, right? And this thing here, oh my God, this is a silicone baking mat. If you don't have one of these, get one right away. I don't know why I put off purchasing one of these things. They're absolutely amazing. It's far better than parchment paper. And even if you're not going to bake, I bet that you have used, gotten those frozen French fries or things like that. But even if you cut up your own potato wedges, the amazing thing about this is it will crisp the underside and it will eliminate the need to turn during cooking. But anyway, I don't know, I kept thinking to myself, well, maybe if I get better at this, I can graduate to this thing and have that and blah, 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 blah. I don't know why I put it off. I absolutely love it. And I think that even if you aren't going to bake, you'll find some good uses for this. Now, we're going to spoon these out into cookies. Now, this is the first time I've tried this, but I thought, well, let's try using an ice cream scoop and see if I get more uniform cookies. Now, uniformity is not particularly important to me unless we're talking about doormats. But I know some of you are used to buying store-bought cookies and stuff like that. And you see how these are going to be fairly thick cookies. So we're going to arrange these on the cookie sheet here. And then we'll pop them in the oven here in a minute. But yeah, I think this is actually working pretty well to use this scoop. I'm getting much more uniform cookies than I would if I was just using the spoon. All right, and I have no idea how many I've got so far. Maybe you're counting. I'm not. And yeah, so I put that there. And in any case, now this is so amazingly good. I could just eat the cookie dough right like this. It's just amazing. It's wonderful. But there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, it's a baker's dozen. How about that? Anyway, I don't get anywhere near 20 cookies out of this. But you see how easy that was? Now, if I hadn't been babbling so much, this would have taken no time at all. So, right now I'm going to go ahead and pop these into the oven. You want to bake them for 18 to 20 minutes. I go for 20. You can, depending on your oven, 22, that's kind of pushing it. And I don't like crispy cookies. Never have, never will. But these will be cooked through, but they will still be cake-like. Anyway, I'm going to pop these into the oven, and then I'll see you in a little while. All right? Bye. All right, let's pull these babies out. Aren't they pretty? They're very pretty, actually. All right, and this is what I love so much about this mat. Look at this. There's absolutely no sticking. No sticking at all. You can see they're just wonderful. They look so cakey. So cakey. All right, and off goes the oven, and there you have it. Delicious carrot cake cookies. So good. It tastes just like a cake. I could say if you really wanted to add frosting, you could. But of course, again, you want to wait till the cookies are cool. Okay? All right.